We got to mix the mission statement with the idea that everything is relevant. Our stand-up is relevant. Living in New York is relevant because it's all how to deal with day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Is that generally it? Yeah. The littlest things in the world can like ruin your whole outlook on life just because of one day when it's really not that big of a deal. But we've got to find a way to like deal with our fucking anger, basically.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Power of How. I'm Matt Fulcheron. I'm here with Daniel Torado.
What's up?
I'm here with Brendan Tassif.
What's up?
New year, same old me. I actually, people will be listening to this like February 1st.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, New Year, what the fuck are you talking about?
Right.
Well, we're taping this on January 5th, and I'm 4 days into being off the booze,
Oh, wow.
which is,
amazing.
I have mixed feelings about it. Actually, this is the 5th day.
What's your goal?
My goal is to go the whole January, and then I'm assuming I'm going to enjoy that, and then keep going for like the rest of the year, and hopefully get to a point where I have a drink, where I've accomplished something,
Right.
or I made some money,
Yeah.
or the Power of How gets up to
Or
the
you
top
saved
100 in iTunes. Just because, like, I've cut down on my drinking over the past 7 years. I have rules for myself, but I still feel like I have a physical, I know I have a physical dependency, as the past 4 days have taught me, but also a mental dependency because I'll just, like at a certain time of the day, I'll want a beer.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I'll feel like I need that beer. And then the worst part about it, and again, like, I don't drink excessively these days, but I'll still, before a comedy show, want a beer just
Oh,
as part of a
really?
ritual.
It's Pavlovian.
And I was able to break that immediately on January 1st. I had a show at the Borgata, and it was no problem. It's all just in your head,
Mhm.
but your head is everything.
Yeah.
It's very powerful, your head.
Your head pretty much is in control of your life, I think.
But you're surrounded by like the saddest people, the Borgata, so that's kind of
Yeah.
but that's kind of motivating. You know, like I'm better than this.
Well, for me, it works whether it's psychological or not.
Right.
It's like, okay, party time. I'm having a drink. I'm the host of the party.
Right.
Which, as I get older, is less and less of a good role for me, because like these days I just want to skip the party, and
Go
it's
home
like,
and
oh, I'm in charge of all the drunk people.
Yeah.
But it turns out you're better off controlling drunk people when you're sober. I think. I don't know. I've only done. It's rare that I've done a show without at least one beer in me, and like I said, I did
So
it on
interesting,
January
huh?
1st, and it was the same thing because one beer, 2 beers, isn't the help I think it is.
Right.
I might as well just cut them out, and rightfully so, because Brennan's quit drinking many times, and you're sober, what, 5 years now?
Just about, yeah.
And so,
Damn.
like, half of it, or more than half of it, is just what your body is going through when you get off that booze. It wants that poison, man.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up the ritual of drinking before
Yeah.
a show,
Mhm.
because that's something, and we talk about it in sobriety, but that's something on a much like higher degree that I had to learn how to. You have to relearn how to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I would do everything drunk. I would go to work drunk. I would.
You don't work out drunk?
Well, I wasn't working out at the time,
Right.
but
That's the easy part. You stop working out.
Or even in that case, like you would wake up hungover and you would force yourself to go to the gym to try and get rid of the hangover, and then immediately drink after. So like, there's all these like little, people say triggers. I'm not really a big fan of that word, but there's all these little rituals that you would do.
Right.
And so when I got sober, I remember the first time. This is gonna sound almost sad, but the first time I was living in the halfway house and everyone was gone, and I was like, cool, I just get to spend a night watching TV at the house with no one around to fucking bother me, because there's like 12 people living in the house.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I put on Netflix, and when I heard that dun dun, I immediately was like, oh, I need my booze, because I used to watch Netflix by myself and just do shots.
That's
Right.
So as soon
hilarious.
as I heard the dun dun, I was like, where's my, oh wait, I'm not drinking anymore. Like, you have to relearn how to do everything.
Hold on, I'm sober.
Yeah. And so that's, And I know we were talking about it when we hung out the other day, but that's the weirdest thing is like, oh, I'm not gonna drink before the show. I'm not gonna drink after the show.
Yeah.
I'm not. So it's like weird. Like, I guess I'll just have water. Like I'm not. It's like Ricky Bobby. Like I don't really know what to do with my hands.
Yeah. My wife actually bought me some a non-alcoholic beer.
What kind?
I don't know. It's some like fancy non-alcoholic
Oh, is it? Yeah.
beer. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, yeah, but there's still alcohol in it.
That's why I asked. Because
yeah.
Heineken 00 is one of the only ones that actually has no alcohol.
Okay, yeah, that's the thing. I kind of want to go pure. It's cool
Yeah.
that it's there for like a bad day where I'm just gonna like have that, but then again, why
Right.
fucking bother?
Well, it's the same thing in comedy
Yeah.
that it is in sobriety. Is there's the purists
Yeah.
who are like, oh no, I don't take any pills, I don't take anything, I don't drink anything. And then there are the people who are like California sober, where they're like, well, as long as I don't do heroin and booze, like
Yeah.
I can smoke weed and that's
Yeah,
fine.
Yeah.
And then there's people like who really walk the line. Like they'll drink kombucha, which has alcohol in it. They'll drink non-alcoholic
Well,
beers that have alcohol in it.
It has alcohol, but it doesn't have alcohol.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
You
No, I understand, but
you
I'm-
could give it's fermented, so you could give the kids. You can literally give kombucha to kids.
Yeah. Well, in my family, you give Jack
or-
Daniels to kids.
with some kombucha.
But there
You
are
gotta
so
mix
there's
it.
like
You
different
gotta
schools
mix
of
it.
thought, just like in comedy where people are like, oh, you need to be a joke writer, or you need to,
Right.
and then other people are like, well, my impressions make people laugh, and they go, well, that's not real. It's the same thing in sobriety where people are like, they judge the levels of like which you're on.
And so it must be crazy in the modern age. Like there must be like Twitter accounts arguing with each other
Oh,
about this.
there
shit.
are. There's social media accounts where people are like, and I've taken, especially on my other show, like I've taken a hard stance for myself.
Yeah.
Where, because I've relapsed so many times, it's like, well, I can't even try. I used to go to bars and order a Coke in a rocks glass with a big cube, so I felt like I was drinking.
Right.
And I would have people in AA be like, that's not like what, that's not how this works. Like you're telling yourself like it's okay to be in this environment and to act like you're drinking.
Uh-huh.
That's the drinking is not the problem. It's your mind that's the
Oh,
issue.
really?
Yeah. So like staying in that same mindset is very toxic.
Yeah.
And it took me like 4 or 5 relapses before I was like, yeah, maybe I should try and do it
Yeah.
the way they're saying.
But that's
Right,
I think
right.
that's exactly what you're saying. I think we think we're addicted to like cigarettes or alcohol or sex or food, but we're not addicted to those actual things. We're just addicted to the sensations.
Mhm.
Mhm.
that
My
they
drinking was
give us.
merely a symptom of my alcoholism.
Right.
That's what we say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ah, shit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're addicted to I'm addicted to the way I feel all the time.
Uh-huh.
And drinking was a way for me to feel better.
right.
So that's
Right.
that the drinking had really nothing. I mean, and obviously it's different than your situation because you're, having a beer or two before a show, but
Yeah.
mine was like, oh no, I want to just turn it off.
Right.
Like we've talked about it before, like that constant overthinking and stuff.
Yeah.
The only way I knew how to turn that off was to drink.
Yeah, me too. For the longest
Yeah.
time, I'm just finally learning how to do meditation and just kind of let things go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just letting things go and being like, it's all right.
Well,
Like you don't have to solve this problem right now.
and that's the hardest part because I know we're all that kind of guy where it's like, I think I can fix this, and it's like you don't have to. It's like, no, but I think I can fix it.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I can.
Yeah, because then you fix it, then your brain is just on to the next problem anyway.
That's
if you're like that.
I don't know. I'm newer to New York, and I'm a little bit younger in my career and everything. But it's funny because people will be like, okay, so you're doing the one-man show, like that's awesome. Like, what do you hope to accomplish? And I go, I don't. I'm just doing it, and then
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
next
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And
yeah,
now
yeah.
like we're doing the podcast, and like I'm
Right.
doing that. It's like
The worst thing that ever happens when you do something monumental is when someone goes, "What'd you get out of that?" And you're like,
Right.
"The fucking monumental thing."
yeah, that.
Like I remember people. There was a guy, Jimmy Dore. I'm sure you guys know who he is. He told me, he's like, now people. As after I did my half-hour special, now people are gonna. Or I think he even like asked me up front, like, "What'd you get out of that?" And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "I'm just kidding. People are gonna be asking you that shit." And he's gonna, you tell them you got to do the special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I'm
that's
fucking-
the fucking thing.
It's my name on the background
Yeah,
in the Comedy
right.
Central
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah, it's tricky to be goal oriented all the time, and it's like every time I go to LA, every time I meet a comic, every time you ask, how you doing, it means, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got this script. I got this audition.
Yeah.
You know, they're considering me for this role, and I
Right.
don't care.
Right.
Like, good for you. Let's get to that eventually. But how are you doing?
Yeah.
And it never fails. No one ever
That's
tells you how
something-
are you doing.
That's something that's just obvious. I moved to Los Angeles before I even started doing comedy, and like I would ask my my apartment manager how he was doing. He'd be like, "Good, I'm up for a national commercial."
Well, and that's the other thing, and I know I've brought it up before, but that's another thing too, where because I'm genuinely like when people say they've got stuff going on, I get excited for them because it's to me it's like I played team sports my whole life, so comedy is one of the only arts where we don't have a SAG, like we just have to watch each other's backs. That's what it is, and it's very individualistic on stage. But the comedy community, I always feel, should be a very tight knit thing because we only have each other. So when people will ask sometimes like, hey, what's going on? Like, what do you got cooking? Like, what are you working on? And then I'll tell them, and I can see their eyes like almost like glaze over. And I've told you about this. I'm like, I don't think they want me to tell them. I think they want me to be like, oh, everything fucking sucks, man.
Yeah, that's exactly what they want to hear.
Yeah.
There was this one time I was at the Comedy Store and I had just gone on tour with Tosh and I had money in the bank. I had enough money to pay my bills for a year. And then I went to pick up a check at the Comedy Store, and it was for more money than I thought I was going to be making for a show I did in San Diego
Isn't that
through
the
the
best
Comedy
feeling?
Store. And I'm all happy and fucking excited. And I go up to the woman working the door, young woman, and she's like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "I'm doing great." And she's like, "Oh, fuck you." And I'm like, it was a little bit of a blow, but I'm like, you know what? I don't care.
Right.
I'm doing great. I'm not falling into this Comedy Store mentality.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
bullshit.
trap.
yeah.
Which that's a specific type of misery which you guys don't know about. And I think it's over, but when I was working at the Comedy Store, it was a pessimistic contest.
Yeah.
Who could be the most miserable? And then if you weren't miserable, people would try to take you down a notch. It was a brutal environment. And I think it's over because the store actually became
What it is
a
now,
good
yeah.
place again. Before it was like people arguing over and fighting over time at like a C room, you know? And so even when you won, you're still going up in front of 8 people.
Yeah.
And so like even when you hit your goals, you're like, this fucking sucks. Because then the audience is fucking mad at you. And then because the comedians went up with that kind of mentality for like 3-4 hours ahead of you. Like, life sucks, this, and they would get into the audience, what sucks about your life?
Yeah.
And then people would start feeling negative, and then they push it towards you. It was a brutal atmosphere.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah, no, it was horrible. It was horrible. I'm
Go
going
ahead.
to take a drink of water since I don't drink beer anymore.
I think I'm lucky enough to, I remember the first time I performed, I did stand-up. I just didn't, I had a glass of wine. I had like a glass and a half. And I promised myself, I knew that would be a crutch.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know, 'cause
I do.
It's a
yeah.
wheelchair,
I just
dude.
didn't want anything I didn't want to need anything to perform.
Yeah.
And I said that was the last time. You know, and of course there were some times, I can maybe twice where I was drunk on stage, or once.
Did that happen by accident?
No, I knew.
Okay.
Or even shots, if like, if I'm on the road and, an audience member pays for shots, I learned to tell the waitress or the waiter to give me a shot of water.
Yeah.
But yeah, because they get offended when you say no.
Yeah, and they won't let you move on.
Yeah. And it makes the show so much better when you take that shot, because
Yeah.
everybody's on board, especially if you tell me you don't drink on stage.
Yeah.
And then forget it. Then they
That's
love
what
you
I'm
more.
talking about,
Right.
being like the leader
Yeah,
of the party.
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly.
Well, I go through that at work sometimes because I'm still at
make
the
you
night
drink?
job. Well, no, I'm still at the night job, but like if I have a rough night, jokingly, I'll be like, I think tonight's the night I'm gonna drink.
Oh.
And I say it as a joke because I've been
Right.
sober for so long, but they get genuinely
Excited.
fired up.
Right.
They're like, really? Like and everyone's like, I got a round. I'll buy for a round. I'll pay for a round.
Right.
And I'm like, do you not understand the destruction that comes with this?
Right,
No,
right,
they
right,
don't.
right.
They don't.
They
Yeah.
don't.
No.
And like, what's that analogy?
Misery
It-
loves company.
No, but it's also like if a bushel of crabs is there with live crabs and one of the crabs tries to get out,
Right.
the other crab will
Go
pull them back
in.
Oh,
for no
really?
good reason. It doesn't
Right.
help that crab.
Right.
Yeah, they love it. They're like,
I
let's
think
go.
everyone just wants to be at the same frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, and if you're not at that same frequency, there's guilt.
that's exactly it.
That's
They
true.
feel guilty because, you know, they think they're not as, and it's not even a question of being better or not. It's just what you're going through. But you know, I spoke to a friend of mine who's actually he's a doctor, and he's like he was this crazy drinking. Well,
Tell me.
no, wait. Not to compare you to
No, I
his
don't care.
alcoholism,
Dude, I've gone on television and
he-
been like, I'm a drunk
no,
idiot.
but he would drink like 12 beers within an hour.
Okay.
Like he was like
Now
next.
he's
Let's-
got me beat by,
let's
by,
go.
by about 11 beers.
He was insane, and he
About
would
10
work out.
beers.
He was, you know, really strong, and he said, "I'm going to stop drinking for like 3 months."
Mhm.
That became 2 years.
Wow.
And now, oddly enough, I told him like, because he can drink. He's not even. It's not. It's more a question of ego now.
Yeah.
Which it's reversed because initially it was for his health, but now he just. Oddly enough, he feels better and better than other people because he doesn't. But initially, that's not what you want. You don't want people to feel worse or dependent just because you're going through what you're going through. And I think you just, if everyone could just tap it. Did you ever? Well, obviously, you go to a bar or a party and you're sober.
Uh-huh.
Did you ever have a good time?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
See, people don't think it's possible.
Yeah.
Right.
But it really is. It's once you get into that groove, you know, you get excited by food, you know.
Oh, yeah.
That's the best
dude,
transition.
you stand
So
next
much.
to that table at a party, at a house party, like I'm the first one at that table.
Yeah.
You go back to like 8th grade or something.
Right,
It's like
exactly.
and you know as an adult though that like you're ditching like I don't know 1,000 calories by not drinking.
Right.
So you can have a couple Cheetos and
Right,
you're still
right,
gonna
right,
come
right,
in
right.
under the wire, and it's actual food.
Yeah.
Not this bullshit that your body can't
Right,
digest.
exactly.
Well,
you
and that's
know?
the other thing. I wanted to bring it back just and touch on the like acting or feeling better than other people because that's definitely not my intent now.
No.
But I will admit something, and Mike Carano brought this up years ago when he first got sober. And it was so true in my head too. But when I first got sober, I would drive by like the liquor store and I'd be like, look at those sad, pathetic pieces.
Right.
And then I would relapse and be like, oh, I'm one of those sad, pathetic.
What's up, Tom? What's up, Ed?
But now,
Been a while.
But now it's definitely to a point where it's like you said, like I don't.
But it's tricky.
It's because-
it's tricky because it almost plays against you
Yeah.
because it plays with your your false sense of self, and then whatever feeds the ego is counterproductive. I
It's
think.
so
You know what I
counterproductive
mean?
because now I'm very much like when people go, oh well, do you mind if I have a drink? I go, no, do whatever you want. And that's the other thing too is the feeling guilty because I've said this before about my style of comedy. Like I never get on stage hoping to upset people or offend people.
Right.
Like I just want to make people laugh.
Right.
But
I want to stop you right there and tell the audience like that's most comedians'
No,
intention.
yeah.
But it goes so wrong so many times.
So, but that's the thing is
Yeah.
like, but then if I get up there and start talking about, it's a room full of people drinking. And then if I want to talk about being sober and stuff, sometimes people take that the wrong way. Like I'm
Right.
judging them. And
Yeah,
I'm
you'll
like,
get booed. You could
yeah.
get booed.
Oh yeah. And it's
Yeah,
happened before.
Yeah, of course.
And that's never my intent. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm talking about me. Like you
Exactly.
guys aren't like me.
Yeah.
Like, and it's the same thing in my life now with how productive I try to be. And this is something that my ex and I used to talk about where she would be like, I feel like you're trying to guilt me into doing stuff because you get up in the morning, you edit the podcast, you go to the gym, you come home, you're working on this, you're working on that, then you go into work and then you come home and then you go out and do comedy stuff. And she's like, I just want to relax for a day, but I feel like
Wow.
I can't because you're like And I'm like, that's not, again, same thing though. It's
That's
like,
obviously about her, Brennan. You're doing that to fucking Spider.
yeah, right. I'm like, that's not what I'm doing. Like,
or
I
avoid
just-
her.
But it's
That's a whole
weird how
nother
people
thing.
can take it, how people can take what you're doing and be like, oh well, fuck you then. And it's like, that's not what we were doing here. I
Yeah.
just didn't want to drink anymore.
Right.
Yeah, well, whether you feel superior or whether you don't, when you wake up in the morning, it ain't about other people. It's about not feeling like shit
Right.
Yeah.
and being able to do those 7 or 8 things you
Yeah.
just said.
God, waking up without a hangover is the greatest feeling.
Especially after a party or something.
Yeah.
Especially after like New Year's Eve.
Which is
It's-
odd,
it's the
right? Because
best.
everyone has that resolution to not drink, and yet you step into that new year drunk
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
hungover.
That's what I
That's
did.
a great
Which is-
point. Yeah.
That's what I did too.
Which
So
is
I'm
very-
usually not hungover because
Right.
I limit myself to 2 drinks. I got through Christmas no problem. I got through all the way to New Year's Eve, and then I was hanging out with some friends, and I just felt like drinking.
got off
And-
the rails.
And look, me going off the rails these days is like 4 or 5 beers, which is like I used to drink that before my first show at the Comedy Nest when I met you. You know, like so it's not that crazy. Unfortunately,
That's
it
why
hits me way harder
Yeah.
Right.
than
right.
the 10 I
Your
used to
body's
drink.
like,
yeah.
"What are you
We don't
doing?"
do this anymore, dude. Didn't you get the fucking
Right.
note? And you know, that made it actually really hard to first of all do a show. Like the first day of the sobriety was the biggest challenge, which I'm sure is true
Oh,
for
yeah.
everybody.
Yep.
But when you're doing it with a hangover, you want that hair of the dog. And I also just wanted, you know what I wanted to do? I wanted to do this, but I've made this mistake before, which is if you're gonna do New Year's, you gotta do New Year's.
Mhm.
You can't be like, all right, January 2nd, because you already fucked up the mental part
right.
of it.
It's always January.
Yeah,
2nd,
yeah.
right.
But I
Yeah.
did January 1st this year.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm doing it.
Oh, nice.
My wife is doing it too.
So you went to bed early, or you just?
No, I did that show, and
Right.
then I don't know when I went to bed, but the point was like I got through that day, and I did a show at the Borgata on January 1st. Now think about that. Like it's not New Year's Eve show. That's a New Year's Day show.
Right.
Which is not a great day to do comedy
Which
historically.
I was at the Borgata the week before that,
Yeah.
and I did the whole "I love money and it comes to me quickly and it
Yeah.
comes to me easily."
Yeah.
We spoke about that in a previous podcast.
We
and,
think. Who knows how this order's
uh,
going to go?
right. And it was insane because I said, "Let me try this on the machines,"
Uh-huh.
because I don't gamble. I'm not
Right.
a gambling man.
Right.
But I said it. I believed it. I never win. I never play the machines, but when I do play, I'll always lose something.
Yeah.
Like, the only time I won was maybe 15 years ago, and I won $60 on the machines, and then I lost my phone. Right. So
Obviously
right, right.
related. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this time I just said, let me just play. Let me just test this out. Again, the energy behind it was fun and positive and playful. And then I was up 20,
Uh-huh.
and I said, let's just cash out.
Yeah.
And I could have. Obviously you want to like.
You want to keep going.
Yeah, I want to keep going, and you want to say like, I don't mind if I break even or if I lose 20, because you're always willing to. I'm always willing to lose what I put in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I was like, you know what? This is it. This
Yeah.
is like the perfect sign that if you want to do this, if you want to believe in it, and just that was a little bit of gas money, you know.
Yeah.
And it was like a little magical, man. It was really
That's
it
awesome.
was fun. Meanwhile, my wife was like, "Go, you're crazy! This is your moment.
Ride it,
You're
ride
on a
the
roll."
wave. You'd be broke by Christmas morning.
Right. But all that to say, it's like, again, it's like the energy behind it. I wanted to mention something. What did you talk about right before?
Let's go to the videotape.
Right.
You were talking about not drinking, using it as a.
No.
Well, I want to tell you a story in the meantime. This
Tell
guy
me.
I work with, Mike Gaffney, this week, he said he came down before he was in at the Borgata. He came down to do a guest spot, and he had $68 in the bank, and he did the guest spot to try to get more spots later, and he was about to drive back to New Jersey. He didn't get paid anything. He didn't have a room. He put in $20 into the slot machines and won $2,500.
What?
Which was like he took as a sign that like
Which is
that-
more than what the comics made.
That's the thing. Like, that's the best
those 3
paying
days. Right.
guest spot of all time.
Right.
You know,
Right,
and
right,
he had
right,
the
right,
sense,
right.
and he even said he likes gambling and he wanted to stay, but he got in a car and got out.
That's
Ocean's
smart,
11,
yeah.
baby. Just run. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course.
I wanted to touch on. You mentioned you didn't want drinking to be a crutch with comedy
Right.
when you got on stage, and I found that very interesting because when I first started comedy, I was hammered every
Yeah,
time I
wow.
got on stage. And this is, open mics back in 2009, but I would get like blackout drunk. And then that became a thing where I couldn't get on stage unless I was drinking excessively. Like I would show up to the mic or whatever and I'd be like, well, let's just start drinking because that's what we do when we're here. And it got to the point where when I was in Oklahoma City for a couple months living with a cousin, I basically had to stop doing comedy after that because I would just get up hammered. I think I told you guys about this before, but I would like run the light and I would just do an Arnold impression for like 17 minutes, just black out. I'd be like, I'll put the light away. I don't want to see it. And just black out drunk. And so it got to the point where I couldn't get on stage in the beginning without drinking, to the point where my drinking got so bad, I refused to get on stage because I couldn't stop drinking. Does that make sense? Like it flipped.
And it's hard to stop when it's working for you.
Well,
so,
yeah,
I'm kidding.
Yeah, right. But it flipped. And so then the reason I took those 3 years off was because I went to rehab and I got sober. And then when I fell off the wagon and got drunk again, I was like, the one thing I will not do is get on stage like this again because I embarrassed myself in South Florida. I embarrassed myself in Oklahoma City. I was like, I can't keep doing that.
You got to be thankful it wasn't during a time where every single comedy set made its way to Instagram
Oh my
and
God,
TikTok.
thank God.
Because you'd still be like drunk enough to be like you'd still look at 1 minute of that and be like, yeah, I'm posting this.
Yeah, this is good enough.
Right.
I really nailed the impression in that
Yeah.
30 seconds. I'm
Right.
putting that up.
Right.
Thank God. And it was right. It was literally like I got sober under the wire
Yeah.
when it came to social media.
Yeah.
Because I'll look at some of my Facebook memories from when I was
Oh,
drinking,
yeah.
and it helps keep me sober because I'm like, you used to be a real piece of garbage.
Yeah.
But it's also like, thank God there's no video of this.
Yeah, those
It's
are-
crazy. Like
yeah.
a still photograph from that time will make you go, oh,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Right.
How am I in better shape now that I'm older?
Yeah,
You know?
I'm in the
Yeah.
best shape. Other than playing college football, I'm in the best shape of my life, and I'm almost.
Those
I'm
Facebook
in the
memories are
third
the
best
worst,
shape of my
man.
life. What?
No, I'm just saying the Facebook memories are the worst because we evolve as people.
Oh, yeah.
They'll bring
Your
back
ex gets married to somebody
ex-girlfriends,
else.
Right. You're in better shape. You had a dog that was alive. You know what I mean?
It hurts. And they
It's
want it to
crazy.
hurt.
Yeah, right,
That's
right,
the
right,
whole
right.
point.
It's insane. It's
Because
insane.
then you're supposed to, that's a whole other addiction. You're supposed to, like, get on the internet. What they
Right.
want you to do is stay on Facebook and find something or write something that'll make you feel better
Yeah.
about where you are today or
It's
whatever.
almost
Or
like-
even share that memory. There's a button, right?
Yeah.
Share this memory.
or a reminder of how bad things are going. Because
Yeah.
like, hey, do you remember that awesome time? Remember
Yeah.
when you were happy?
Yeah.
Remember that beautiful moment?
Yeah.
Sometimes
you're
I
like-
get tempted to hit that share button, and it's always funny when it's me and my ex fiance because she's married now and like has a
Right,
life,
right,
but it'll
right.
be like a picture of us somewhere, and it's like we're like such happiness on the
Oh,
face,
yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
don't do it. I'm like, what if I
Yeah.
just click share?
And just think about
Tag her.
how fucked up that is. Like it hasn't happened to me yet, but like once a loved one dies,
Oh yeah.
and then they'll
Yeah.
just hit you with that at like 8 a.m.
Mhm.
Like, oh God. damn.
Right. Yeah.
Remember
yeah,
your
yeah.
grandfather's funeral 10 years ago?
Right. So let's get back on track with the power of how. 'Cause
Oh
the,
shit! I forgot we're doing a podcast.
The whole point of this is to just kind of find ways of how to feel better, improve, go deeper into ourselves. And I know we got a couple of things that we like to play with.
Yeah.
Was I a dick?
Was I a dick?
You guys
Was
want
I
to
a
talk
dick?
about
Our
that?
original segment. Yeah, Brennan, you have something.
I have a great was I.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
I have
yeah.
a mediocre was I a dick, so
Uh,
I know I wasn't a dick.
I
I was just uncomfortable. But that's all I came up with this week.
so this just happened between last night and today.
oh, so this is recent.
This is like just now. So this happened like a month ago, you
Okay.
guys.
Fresh. A power
Fresh
of
dick,
how
fresh
exclusive.
dick.
Fresh
So
dick.
we've talked about Savannah and I broke up. We've talked about that on the show. That's not the Was I a Dick. So, I feel comfortable saying her name. She's been on my podcast. She's out there.
Right.
But so we break up, and it's totally amicable. We're both in our 30s. I'm sober, like trying to do the mature thing, and we decide this isn't working out. No problem. I found my own place.
Right.
Thing is, I don't move in until a month from now. I move in at the end of January. And so her whole thing was when we talked about it, she's like, we're going to do a hard reset, changing the social media to single, like doing the whole thing. But we're still living together for a month. But she made it very clear, like, I am not to get into her business. I'm not to, like, check up on it. Like, and she didn't say it mean. She was just like, we're going to do our own thing. And so I took that as she's not going to get into my business. And then a couple days ago, I had been texting. Like, I've been meeting people. I've been out. Like, I downloaded the dating apps because I was almost out of spite because I was mad. After 4 years of dating, she changed all her stuff to single. I was like, well, fuck this. But then I haven't really done much, but I did meet a few people on there. So a couple days ago, I was taking a nap and I came out and she looked at my phone and she goes, who's Jenna? And I was like, well, that's not. But the Was I a Dick was today. Or last night I came home and she confronted me and she goes, hey, are you talking to other people?
Last night?
Last night. And I said, I was kind of blindsided because I was like the whole hard reset, we're broken up. Like all this was your idea. Like I agreed with you, but because we were both unhappy, but like, I haven't even texted you in like days, like to be like, hey, what's going on or anything. And so I was
No Merry Christmas?
Well, yeah, I mean, we were at the house together, so we did say Merry Christmas, but
Happy New Year.
We do live together. But
I draw the line at Happy New Year. I want you to have a miserable New Year.
But this is the Was I a Dick. So she said, I can't. She said, I can't believe you. Like, how can you just be talking to people? And my response was, I told you. Like in certain times when we would get in an argument, I'd be like, you do know there are people out there who would want to hang out with me. Like I was like, I made that very clear. And now that we're broken up, I'm hanging out with those people. So the Was I a Dick is we've been broken up for about 2 months. We still live together for another 3 weeks. Am I a dick for going out on dates with other people, even though I still live with my ex? Because we had very defined rules. No one comes to the apartment. No strangers in the apartment. That's a respect thing, a boundaries thing. So I'm not going to bring girls over. She's not going to bring guys over. But like we never discussed like whom either of us are allowed to like hang out with. So I was in this weird spot of I felt like shit because I was like I almost felt like I cheated on her. Yeah. But I was like, this was your idea. Like the hard reset was your idea. So I need a genuine.
So you broke up.
Yeah. Was it, so am I a dick for?
Well, this is what I can say this because I came up with this segment. I'm starting to think this segment is flawed because we're just not dicks. And so like we're going to do like decent person shit.
Wait for my story.
And then, okay, all right, good. And then we're going to be like, was I a dick? And the answer is fucking no, you weren't a dick.
Okay.
Definitely no.
You're not a saint, but you're not, hopefully you're not a saint. I hope you take advantage of what's going on right now. But no, she's the one that established the rules.
Yeah.
If you did what she requested. And so, of course, you're not a dick. And listen, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, because I don't know if there was like this unspoken thing where, because I did say a couple weeks before we broke up, I was like, well, let's try to make this work. Like, I don't want us to go out and see other people and start dating other people. Like, we're still living together. But then 2 weeks later, she's like, no, this is over. So I was just like, okay. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure the listeners will mention.
It's just funny when people like,
zero.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Because like. She got what she wished for, and she hated it.
Yeah.
You know, fortunately, it's a temporary situation.
And now she's doing that thing where she's just going, okay. And, like, has that, like, Mr. Burns kind of, like, excellent kind of look. And I'm like, oh,
well,
God.
You know what I think it is?
What am I going to come home to?
You know what I think? I think maybe, I could be totally wrong, but maybe subconsciously she was just looking for permission. Maybe she felt guilty. Maybe she was doing something on the side.
Yeah, that's true.
And then projecting that and like, especially because of what you said, if she's like Mr. Burns after that, that means, you know, maybe she's got something
in the hopper,
some dick on the side.
Yeah.
Side note, and we'll get back to this, I promise. But I went out with a girl. I lived with a girl for like 2 years, and she never put me in her Facebook as her boyfriend. And then as soon as she moved out and broke up with me, she is in a relationship on her Facebook within like 2 weeks.
Really?
Yeah. Wasn't a relationship, or was it?
I mean, she
No.
said it. What? What?
She wrote was
No,
what?
no. So the whole time we're together,
2 years.
single
Single.
on Facebook.
Gotcha.
Just so her family's like really Christian, and she didn't want
Yeah.
like this comedian who says curse words and stuff, grabs his dick on TV as like, yeah, that's my
Right.
boyfriend.
See what I did?
You
just
know?
there?
And
my
but then
God.
I guess she found somebody more respectable because after 2 weeks of her moving out, and that was the breakup, by the way.
Yeah.
It was like,
her moving out.
and that's like, yeah, but that wasn't even an official breakup. And then the inner relationship, and you look at, it says who they're in a relationship with.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh shit.
Oh, was that true?
And then I happened to see the dude like
so
like
it
a
wasn't
couple
out of
days.
spite. I thought that was fake.
It wasn't out of spite. No, she actually like was hooking up, and she had pictures of her like hiking and stuff that she didn't selfie. So like she's going out on dates.
Yeah.
She has a boyfriend. I'm like, what the fuck just happened?
right,
Well,
And
so
why
that's-
weren't you paying your share of the rent? Because this is fucked up.
Well, that's the big thing is like, I made it. I told her because I actually this was the first time where I had to sit back and think about it because she was asking me and I was like, yeah, I'm like going to get coffee and like going on like, I guess you would call them dates technically,
Yeah.
but I have no qualms. I have no illusions of like trying to get into a relationship now because it's. I mean,
Right.
you guys are both married, but you know as well as I do, it's hard enough to date people in this life anyway. Because
Oh,
we
yeah,
work
yeah,
at night,
yeah,
we work weekends, we're away, and then I have my night job on top of it. So it's like I have no delusions of like, oh, I'm gonna have another girlfriend by next month.
Right.
I just literally I wanted the attention and validation from somebody,
Sure, why
and then
not?
then people were like more than willing to give it to me. So I was like, all right, cool.
It's a great thing to do after a breakup.
Yeah,
Like you don't want to just sit around
And sulk.
You want to get back out there.
Yeah.
Start stretching out a little bit.
make sure I still
Start
got it.
warming up.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
All right, so not a dick.
No.
I'm taking that to
Zero.
the bank. Because
Oh.
I really left the house this morning feeling like, because I don't have the moral capacity to cheat. Like I just, it would destroy me.
Yeah.
And I left the house this morning almost feeling some of that, where I was like, I fucking ruined everything.
It's because you've considered her feelings for so long,
Yeah.
and then
And you're a good dude.
yeah, and then now you have to. It's just like me quitting drinking.
Yeah.
You have to quit her.
Yeah.
And like you're still going to be doing. You're still going to want to do the things you used to do.
Yeah.
And she's going to want you to do them too, obviously. And it doesn't make her a bad person. It's just
No.
you guys are still in that apartment, and this is the toughest part.
It's so easy
This
to
is
fall
your
back into the
January
habits.
1st.
Yeah.
Quite literally. You've got to, you've got to get through this without giving in.
Yeah.
Because all this stuff, whether it's fun or not, it's still similar to being in a relationship.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
Yeah, we're still around. We still have to text each other about the dog. We still like sometimes we come home and it's like, "Are you hungry? I'm hungry. Let's go get food." And it's
Yeah.
like, "Wait, stop it."
Yeah, no, you want, we can do this.
Yeah.
We can do all the things we used to do. And then we still won't be back together. You'll be back together in no time.
One of my friends at
Yeah,
work
yeah.
was like, "Wait, when do you move into your new place?" I was like, "January 29th." And they go, "You're going to be back together by January 15th." And I was like, "No way."
Yeah.
It's still so much time. It's still only January 5th when we're taping
Oh
this.
God.
You can do it though, man.
I'll get
You
it.
just
Yeah,
keep
for sure.
dating. You keep fucking dating, and you keep doing those 11 things a day.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
All right, we'll get through it. Daniel, was I a dick?
Well, I know I was a dick.
All right.
Here we
We're
go.
giving
So-
away the endings on all these, but I'll take
This
it.
was not a recent was I a dick story. This
Okay.
is an old was
See,
I a
and
dick.
this is what I'm saying. We got to dig deep
Right.
for these.
Yeah. And I think I was a dick for the sake of comedy.
Okay.
Because sometimes when you're a dick, you could see how that can, open up a few doors with your comedic mind and kind of take it there. But I was waiting online at a restaurant, and we were maybe three waiting, and this woman just stormed in the restaurant, and she starts kind of yelling and telling a waiter, "I'm dying of thirst. I am dying of thirst. Can I just get a glass of water? I'm just dying of thirst." Extremely self-entitled, and so the waitress is like, and we're all looking at her, and she's like, "Please, please." She's frantic.
Yeah.
"I'm just dying of
She's
thirst."
dying.
She kept repeating.
Yeah.
And then she got her glass of water, and I just looked at her, and I said, "Really? Like, are you really dying of thirst?" Like, and then she was shocked. She just looked at me. I was like, some people in the world are really dying of thirst. And again, she was so surprised, and she said, "Well, why don't you mind your own fucking business?" Yelling, obviously. And a part of me knew not to say that or not to get into that, but another part of me was like, I literally thought, what would it be like to be George Costanza
Yeah.
Dude.
for like a moment, and see where that would take me comedically,
Yeah.
and what she would say and how I would interact with that. But the freedom of just like calling her out on her bullshit, and which felt good, which I wouldn't do today.
Right.
But I did get some pleasure out of, everyone just waiting patiently. We're waiting for like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then this woman storming in. So I knew I was being a dick. I was very aware of my
Yeah.
dickiness.
Right.
But then I still took that leap of faith and just said, I wanted to say what I thought.
Yeah.
And that feels good sometimes. And
Oh, yeah.
go ahead. You know what
Well,
I mean?
no, I was gonna say it's so interesting that you brought up, because you changed my "was I a dick" just by going deep into the past.
Got you.
I've already changed my "was I a dick" twice now in my
Okay.
head. But and I was already thinking, I wasn't in the moment. I was already thinking about my "was I a dick." But when you said George
You're being a dick. You're being a
Costanza,
dick.
I'm being a dick right now. I'm being inconsiderate. When you said George Costanza, I
Right.
was like, yes. Because for
Yeah.
those that don't know, George Costanza is a character on Seinfeld who was written by and kind of in place of Larry David,
Right.
Curb Your Enthusiasm. And around the time Curb Your Enthusiasm came out, I always grew up like a nice guy, always trying to do the nice thing. But then I started to look at Curb Your Enthusiasm, and I still think about this as like, okay, it's your duty to
Right.
call people out.
Yep.
It's your duty to be a little bit of a dick. It's your duty. It's to be celebrated.
But do you mean as a comic or as a
As a-
or
just
as
a-
As a
or
functioning
human
member
being?
of society.
I can't tell you because that's right when I started comedy at the too. But I just meant as like an adult, you're supposed to call people out on their bullshit.
No, but that's the thing. That's the thing that I want to get into, because how do I know? Like, to me, at surface level, it is bullshit. But I don't know what moment she's living. I don't know if she didn't take her meds. I don't know if she just had a divorce. I don't know what place she's coming from. So for me to just judge that moment at a very basic surface level, yes, I was a dick. I'll own up to being a dick because I don't know. I don't know her
that's
reality.
it's only because we're missing a category
Right.
here. So there's nothing between decent person and dick, right? So like you were what I'd call a reasonable dick, but you were still a dick because what I've gone through is full circle on this, and I've been like, yeah, I'm gonna call people out, and then I've come back around to it's not worth my time.
Right.
They're already wasting my time. It's not worth my time. And like you said, you don't know what they're going through.
Right.
I'm back to let that person be a dick and let me just
Right.
judge that person silently. Like, yeah, maybe I'm wrong in my judgment, but at least it's just me.
I
you know?
selfishly did it, fully aware for comedic reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I enjoyed.
And I think it's good you went through that phase. And I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah,
good
yeah.
you tried it. Because, and here's something that's really changed my mind. I told you I've come around on this. I've seen an interview with Larry David where he goes, I'm a total fraud. I do not act that way in real
Do
life.
not call
Right.
people
And
out.
I'm like, what?
No, but if-
because I fell for it.
Really?
I
Yeah.
fell for like, this is how this guy lives his life, and it's just a recreation of it. But it's
Oh,
really
see.
just what he wants to do.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
You
It's
know?
a
What he-
vehicle to just live out his fantasy.
I did want to say, because Daniel, you brought up a good point about like you don't know what that person's going through.
Right.
As someone who's gone through things, I am a decent enough human being where you don't bring that out into the world. So I think you are well within your right of being a dick, because it's like functioning members of society don't go out and be like, hey, look at me. I fucking need this right fucking now. I've gone through sobriety. I've gone through ex-fiancés leaving. I've gone through breakups. I've gone through all sorts of crazy shit. And never once, and this goes back to the was I a dick with the guy that I worked with. Even in that scenario, I said, hey, man, listen, I'm having a bad day.
Right.
Can you pump the brakes? And he
Yeah.
didn't, so I lashed out. But to go from immediately like, I'm dying of thirst.
Right.
You're not in
Dying.
this
Right,
with
right,
us.
right,
You're
right,
not
right,
in this
right,
functioning
right.
society with us.
Right.
You're on your own island.
Right. But
There's a line too. Like there's a line. Like if you pass out, they will fucking give you water.
they'll give you a water.
Of course,
Yeah.
and of course, and I guess what I want to talk about, what I find interesting with this segment of Was I a Dick is the rippling effects, because you're right, you're totally right. No one normally behaves that way. One, we are in New York City. Everyone's kind of insane. Two, we've all been there. At some point, we've all been, out of our minds.
Oh yeah.
And three, me participating into that energy and making that comment. What is the ripple effect? Like, will she? Two things could happen. She could be self-aware, and it won't happen again. Which I was a saint technically.
If that happens,
Or two, it could just backfire, and then she could take it out on a family member or a colleague or whatever it is, or herself.
Yeah.
So it's so hard to say, but judging by that moment, ideally, like I said, I behaved selfishly, and which I enjoyed, and that happens. I'm human, but what are the consequences, good or bad? I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
I think there's a good consequence in a way that you at least tried this out. Because
Right.
how many times, and it's slowly killing us, is the other side of it. How many times, and I think about the airport specifically, where you're just keeping your goddamn mouth shut. Because you can't deal with the chaos that an outburst will bring. But your body is at it's in the red.
Yeah.
And you just can't take it. And there's no way to get it out. There's no nothing.
Well,
and that's bad.
subway,
That's
too.
bad for you too.
Yeah.
I don't know what the solution is, but the sad thing for me is when I do something like that, and my Was I a Dick is similar now, is that I feel bad no matter what. And we covered this on a Was I a Dick when I yelled at the guy in the movie theater. I feel bad either way.
Yep.
I feel like I'm not being true to myself, and then I feel like I went way too far.
But do you also feel good either way?
I felt good only because I am inclined to keep my mouth shut, and it felt good to be like, okay, you can do this if you want to.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't want to.
Right.
But you have the capacity to do it.
Right. And if that guy had 50 more pounds on him, I would not do that at all, And that brings me to my Was I a Dick? This is right around when I discovered Curb Your Enthusiasm. I was in line at a party, so I was drunk. I was like 25, 26. And we're in this long line in the bathroom, and this woman, she's probably 10 years older than me. She comes in, she walks into the front line. She's like, I really have to go. I really have to go. I really have to go. Can I go ahead of everybody? And we were just like, everyone was just like, yeah, it's fine. She goes, I'm really sorry, guys. And I just go, no, you're not. If you were sorry, you get at the end of the line. You haven't done anything yet. There's nothing to be sorry about yet. You can still be sorry and be one of us and go back to the line. And
where was this?
This was just at like a makeshift party. It wasn't a bar and it wasn't a house party. It was at like kind of like it wasn't a rave because it was adults drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like an abandoned building type thing.
Right.
And I was like, you ain't sorry.
Right.
And she was just like, how dare you? She already judged this one. I was a dick. She told me I was a dick. Or something to that effect,
Yeah.
And I did feel bad about it. But I was also in that realm of discovering this end of the spectrum. And I was meeting other comedians who didn't play by the rules of society. And I was like, this is how we're supposed to operate.
Yeah, I think you said that beautifully, man.
Yeah.
Comedians who do not play by the rules of
Right.
society.
And that is a huge value in our little group.
Right.
Is like, I see through the bullshit.
Yeah.
And I will now call out the bullshit.
I hang out with comics who do that.
Yeah.
Like in New York, like we'll be walking, and one of my friends in particular, like if someone's walking towards her on the wrong, there's unwritten rules about the way you're supposed to walk on the sidewalk. And if someone walks towards her, my natural instinct is just get out of the way.
Yeah.
And she'll literally walk into them and go, walk much? And I'm like, what are you doing?
Right.
Like,
The funny part is I know who you're talking about.
yeah.
But also I want to do that so bad when someone's texting, but I just don't do it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The
Part
subway's
of
a
it.
hard one, too, because you're trying to get down the escalator, and people are just standing there, like, on their phones, and you want to be like,
And
fucking move.
And then when you see what they're actually looking at, you're like, dude, you're looking at a Facebook post,
Yeah.
an Instagram post.
I
like,
missed my
for
train
real?
for social media.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is that because we're talking about people who are full of shit and bullshit, like we are all full of shit
Right.
at a certain level. Some more than others, but we are all full of we all play our roles in society.
To the point where, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, to the point where if you're not full of shit for 1 second, you do feel like a dick.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's so strange that even like a waiter or a bus driver or any profession, a butcher, like everybody becomes that role, and it's like, do you ever see a waiter that, let's say you go to a restaurant regularly and you see a waiter walk down the street, but they're not wearing their clothes. And you're like, I know, but I don't know. I know you, but I don't, because we can't even recognize them without the uniform.
We literally talked about this.
Yeah.
And it's insane because that uniform, structures you.
Mm-hmm.
It puts you into a certain place, and we play that role. We behave a certain way. A cross guard is the same, same.
I used that to my advantage this week at the Borgata because for some reason in my older age, even if I did well at a show, I don't feel like being recognized after the show. And at the Borgata, you're just like stuck there with the people.
Yeah.
So what I do is I go upstairs and I wear a suit on stage, and then I change my clothes and put a hat on, and like I get to go back out, and nobody knows it's me, except for there's always somebody. Like if you get
that's a lot of effort.
If you it's
not be
really
recognized,
not,
right?
because I'm gonna go up to my room anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's 46 floors. You got to go all the way up for that.
I'm going up there anyway because I'm gonna go. I don't like talking to the audience anymore because I know my take on the show.
Off stage, right?
Off stage.
Right.
And I'm still like, when I do run into somebody, I'm still much better at it than I used to be. Like, I don't, if they say something I don't agree with, I'm like, oh yeah. I don't feel like fighting about it, but I also feel like avoiding it. And so I'm going to go upstairs anyways. And while I'm up there, I might as well change my clothes because at that point, I feel like I'm asking for it.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to go walk around Atlantic City in a suit and I don't work there, like you've been there. Nobody's dressed up.
Right.
People
Nobody's
look like,
dressed up.
no offense, New Jersey, but you look like hell. Philly, I'm looking at you too. Was I a dick? Yes, but they know I'm not. They know I'm kidding. But anyway, like.
But yeah.
But then there was this one guy in like a rascal scooter or like even a wheelchair. Somebody was pushing this really old guy, and he says to the person behind him, he goes, "That's the guy from the show." And I'm just like,
you're like,
I'm
nope.
I'm like not in my suit, And I just like got out of there because the woman's like, "What? What'd you say?" And I was like, but it still happened in like elevators or whatever, and for good reason, Daniel. Now that I think about it, because I'm in the elevator, and I'm wearing a shirt that says Sugarberg. It's a bar in Brooklyn. It says Brooklyn, and then this dude goes, I'm in an elevator full of people, and this dude goes, "You're from Brooklyn?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and I think it's because of the shirt. And he goes, "We're from Bay Ridge." And I'm like, "Cool, I'm from Greenpoint." And I almost feel like going, I'm not a real Brooklyn person.
Right.
You know it, I know it. I think you're probably testing me right now. But I also don't care. Like, I'm not going to pretend like I'm from New York.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I'm not going to pull it off. And so we're having this little conversation or whatever. And it's already a little awkward because it's already the elevator. I'm already me in my head. And then this one younger woman, she goes, the door's open and I walk out and she goes, "Yeah, have fun going to touch yourself in your room." And I'm like, "Oh, they were at the show." I'm like, "They were at the show." Because that's my closing bit. I'm like,
Imagine
I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to, I'm get back on the elevator. No, but that was,
Right.
Yeah, that was like, oh, they still fucking know.
That's funny.
I still look like me. And I still talk about jerk. That's still my closer. I got to write a better bit.
Yeah, right.
That's still my closer.
It's weird how, when I started doing I think when we all started doing comedy, we want to hear, if we do well, we want to hear the feedback from the audience. Now I'm the same way. Like after a show, I just want to leave. But this last time I was working with two comics and they went up front. They wanted to go up front and greet everyone. And I didn't want to be I didn't want to have another was I a dick story.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me just
Fine,
go with him. And the staff said, that's really nice that the comics after the show just stayed
is.
after and just greeted everyone and said it's because everyone just leaves. And it was just really nice to see you three at the door. And I was like, perspective,
Yeah.
It's like there's always two sides to things. It's not everything has to be as little as I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
It felt nice.
I've done it before. I've done it a lot, actually. And one of the funniest times is when I was opening for Daniel Tosh, and then part of his thing he knew before he was like super famous.
Yeah.
Was go meet everybody after the show, and it was before the iPhone, so everyone's taking pictures on their little
their
flip
real
phones
camera.
and everything, and then I gave up on like people wanting to talk to me, so I just went and sat down like 10 feet away, like I'm here if you guys want to talk to me.
Right.
And this one woman, it was such instant karma. She comes up to me, she goes, "Where's your line?" And as soon as she said it, her phone fell out of her hand and it smashed.
Wow.
I was like, "It's in your phone" or something like that. I took it like too personally, but I honestly don't know if I came back with something witty because I was just like, "Thank you, Jesus."
It is. Speaking of that perspective thing, though, I will say, as someone who was genuinely a huge fan of stand-up comedy before I started doing it, it's cool to like when you go to a show and then the comics come out after, and like for someone who goes and like now it's different because I've been doing comedy for so long and like we're I like in this now, so it's different. But I remember when I first started going to the Comedy Zone in Jacksonville, and you'd go see someone that I was a huge fan of but maybe hadn't popped yet, and you'd be like, are they going to come out and say, and then they come out and say hi, and you're like, oh my God, what's up? And they're like, hey, yeah, I know you, we communicated on social media, like Twitter or something. And you're like, fucking yeah, like, yeah.
It's
like we did it.
It's definitely a great thing to do.
And then they blow up and sell out arenas.
And then there's no way they can do it anymore.
Yeah, but
just can't do it.
You know
anymore.
what I hate, and we've all been on both ends. You're lining up with the comics, and there's always a drunk or a person who's completely unaware and says, "There's always you were the best," and they either say that to you or the comic right next to you.
Yep.
You were really the best, and you feel awkward
Either way.
either way.
Lachlan Patterson told me that one time somebody came up and they were like, first, second, third. Like just rank them.
And that was in the lineup. and it feels, as like, and then what do you say to that? I always say, everyone's got different taste,
Sure.
or but it's
Art is
so
subjective.
It's such a lack of tact, and
yeah,
it's
and
such unawareness.
They don't know. They don't know. And in a way, you can't get mad at them, but that doesn't solve the problem, which is it's going to be weird between you and your fellow comics. And if you already feel like you didn't have a good set, it's devastating.
Oh, my God.
Because you are hoping that you're kind of doubling down in a way. That's not why you're there, but you're still hoping that someone is going to like elevate your mood.
There's at least one person in the audience
if you didn't
who
like
got
your
it.
set,
Right.
but there's usually somebody there to remind you.
It was terrible.
Hey,
Yeah.
keep at it. Keep at it.
You're kind of funny.
Yeah.
I
And
got that one.
especially a lot of middle acts. Middle acts have such a sweet spot,
Oh, man.
So most middle acts do fantastic.
Yeah.
Everyone can kill for like 20 minutes, and then the headliner has to deal with drunks, with the checks, with a 45-minute to 1 hour set.
Yeah.
The attention span of the modern
Exactly.
audience,
So how many times a headliner, you're either when I was a middle act, I would get great feedback and next to the headliner, or as a headliner now, you hear the middle act get and it goes both ways, and it's like, and I guess it comes down to like just the ignorance, like people just don't know.
Yeah, and this goes all the
They
way
don't
back to
know.
the lady
Right.
that you were talking about with the "I'm dying of thirst."
Right.
It's like, this isn't
Right.
like, just be a person. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
Yeah, no, but we're used to it. To us, it's like another day at the factory.
Yeah.
To them, it's like it might be the
It's
only
an event.
time in their
It's an event.
lives
It's an
that they
event.
say.
Right.
Yeah.
We got to wrap this up.
We gotta wrap this up.
But do we do this? We do like I thought it'd be fun to do like a little challenge.
Yeah.
It could be a weekly or monthly or a daily challenge.
Do you have a challenge? I'm already in the middle of a challenge.
Well, your challenge. How long? So your
Just
challenge
goes
is
at
gonna
least
be
a
1 month.
31 days.
31 days, and so what happens if you slip? Like, is there something that
We're gonna stone it.
I'm
right
not
here
gonna
on,
slip.
So you're not gonna slip. So 1 month.
If I slip, I have the best night of my life.
Just call me.
No, I don't intend on slipping. If I slip, it's no big deal, and I think that's kind of the way to get through it.
Yeah.
Like this isn't actually a big deal. The hardest part is over. Brennan knows the flaw in that thinking, but at the same time, I think it's true. I already did that show. That was going to be the hardest part.
Yeah.
And I got it out of the way right away.
The one thing I've learned in sobriety is once you walk through one thing sober, you realize, oh, I can keep doing that.
Okay,
So
good.
now that you
Yeah,
got the first show over with, you're like, oh, I've done this before.
Yeah.
What's your physical challenge you have for us?
Well, it's not so much a physical challenge as much as it is a challenge, you know. And that, to me, because I'm great at starting a book and not finishing it. So I have 5 books that I really, really, really need to read this year.
Okay.
And this is my goal. And it's
I like this one.
And this is insane because one of them I think is like 600 pages. One is Don Quixote, which is like this thick. It's like a Bible.
Yeah.
And I bought it literally 10 years ago, and I read maybe 80 pages, but I would just stop. So I'm dying to finish, to just start and finish this year that book. One of George Carlin's books, I forget which one it is, but it's his. I think it's his autobiography, which again I started, never finished.
I only have 4 books to read. I already read that one.
I have Crime and Punishment. Again,
That's a tough one.
I bought it
Is it?
8 years ago. Apparently, it's like
dry sand in your mouth. I mean, everyone raves about it, but I can't get
well,
through
because
the first 5
I
pages.
got through The Idiot by Dostoevsky, and I thought it was it's 500 pages, and that was one of my favorite books of all time.
So we really should split.
Yeah,
But you want to start with those 3?
I'll start with those 3.
Okay,
right,
I'm
Crime
in.
and
I
Punishment,
like
Don
I like
Quixote,
this
George Carlin.
challenge. I like.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to The Power of How.
Yes.
And yeah, see you later.